Well, the bait's been out for 20 minutes. Nothing's touched it.
It'll take a couple days.
HBR Talk with Hannah Wallen. This week I asked a simple question on Twitter and got a less than simple answer. My post? Feminists adamantly demand men take certain responsibility for women's welfare, especially in terms of financing public initiatives, vigilante actions, and accommodating women's sensibilities. I'm curious what reciprocal responsibility they'd give women for men's welfare. It shouldn't be a tough question. We get told all the time that feminism is about equality, right? Its practitioners vehemently deny that misandry is involved, and they vehemently deny that it's about special treatment for women. If equality is the goal, a mandate for one sex to be responsible for the other's welfare without a reciprocal responsibility assigned to the protected sex would be counterintuitive. After all, if one sex bears all the responsibility and the other gets all the benefits, that's not equality, is it? Even a classic traditionalist conservative woman would have some answers. They might not be satisfactory in terms of equal responsibility, but she'd at least take responsibility for having her husband's back, carefully stewarding the resources he works for, and maintaining good character, being loving, loyal, respectful, mindful, and compassionate. The arrangement isn't egalitarian by any stretch of the imagination, but it does show that women can at least do better than feminists have been telling us. Feminists, on the other hand, seem entirely unable to consider the question of what responsibilities women should be able to take on in trade for those they expect men to shoulder. They can only answer things they were not asked. The first commenter spat out a talking point.
Let's talk about this when men are taking pills that present the risk of deep vein thrombosis in order to avoid a pregnancy.
Because apparently women are so incapable of controlling their impulses that not having sex is just out of the question, and they're so bad at decision-making that choosing any of the plethora of other birth control methods available on the market, some of which are available without a prescription, is also not an option. Another made a stern demand for acknowledgement with,
"Women have been and continue to take care of men. Period."
Period, guys. Period. My ears are still popping from the sound of her putting her foot down from across the interwebs. And don't you dare question that, you misogyny-kneed, privilege-driven, gender-stereotyping bastages. End of story. That's all for tonight. Thanks for listening to HBR Talk. Wait a minute, we've still got more to discuss here. Of course I had arguments with both tweets, and neither could take a rational approach. One flat out denied that any of the things I described in my tweet are expected of men. So there you go, guys. I guess those of you who run businesses can stop diversity hiring women because that never happens. Oh, and those taxes you're paying to fund women's initiatives? Probably A-OK for you to hold your breath until a refund for all of that comes in the mail, right? We're just gonna take a wait-and-see approach at my house on that. But don't hesitate to do absolutely nothing the next time you see a woman in trouble because, according to some random tweet, guys never get criticized for failure to protect a woman in distress. And you know that's totally credible. She sure told me. So what about the other gal? Well, she tried to manipulate the conversation into a position where she could claim to be misgendered. She posts with a male avatar and just a surname, then right out of the chute, started accusing people of assuming she's male, so it was pretty obvious rather quickly that this is just her primary method of operation, and I did not gender her in the conversation, so she gave up. Then, the thread began behaving oddly. I had, at the time, 15 responses. Suddenly, I could only see the 3 that came from people I follow who also follow me. I began investigating it using archive.is, which will often show me things I can't see from my account. Even archives didn't show the whole thread, but I could see one thing I hadn't been able to see before. One other account had gone through and liked every comment from the 2 accounts that had taken issue with my question. I couldn't see that without archives because that account had me blocked. Now, liking a response to someone you have blocked on Twitter does not normally hide that response, so there must be something else going on here. Then I remembered why that account blocked me, and who she is. I had committed a few terrible atrocities against her, and it really ground her gears. Likely because she has a blue checkmark, a verified account, and I have 10 times the followers she has. Her Twitter profile lists her first and foremost as a journalist. She had asserted that patriarchal structures breed violent men. I pointed out that one of the best ways to prevent a boy from growing up to be criminally violent is father involvement, yet feminists fight tooth and nail against any legislation that would protect fathers' relationships with their children. She claimed there was no evidence, and I posted a link with the statement, "Reading resources for that information are in the low bar of this video, along with some links to coverage I've done of the subject because it has further explanation supported by additional sources." No way was she having a discussion about the role of mothers in their children's future criminal behavior. That would make women partly responsible for her boogeyman, male violence. She tried to avoid the evidence I provided by replying up the thread to fork it off in another direction. I called her on it. When she responded to that by implying that my followers were fake, I proved that to be false and pointed out she hadn't done her research, was using her popularity contest as another dodge, and had made herself look less credible. Her final attempt was to try to use the format of the evidence presented as an excuse to ignore it. When that didn't work, she flounced and bounced. Some journalist. When I went back and reread that thread, I found that it was messed up too. Her fork showed in archives, but I had to work at finding most of my tweets and other parts of the conversation. The upshot is, I've got a Twitter-verified self-titled journalist who has blocked me for posting information she doesn't want to know, and is now exhibiting a pattern of liking tweets that disagree with mine in conversations she's not part of. The threads she participates in, either overtly or covertly, are getting messed up. Either Twitter is now hiding tweets when someone who has blocked a user in the thread likes them, or my feed was throttled because a verified user got her panties in a wad over what I would not accept. Neither her assertions without evidence, nor her denial of the evidence against them, and most of all, that expectation that men should be held responsible for women's welfare with no reciprocal responsibility being applied to women. Did a feminist really run to Twitter staff for protection from information that might communicate a responsibility women ought to live up to? I guess that answers my question, doesn't it?